everyone, and welcome to the Chov and Puri Dai podcast. I'm Linda Robbins, and this is
Jasper Lee.
Hi. So, last month we were having a chat about what the role of the Chov or Chovihano was, and this month we're going to have a chat about the role or who or what is the Puri Dai. So, Jasper, can you explain what or who the Puri Dai is in Romani culture?
Yeah, okay. So it's a very important role to have in many ways because when you've got a whole tribe of people, that can range from maybe a dozen to, in some cases, up to 50 people in earlier years, I mean, many earlier years ago. You wanted to make sure that the domestic life of everyone flowed smoothly. So, ordinarily, most people, I think, could take care of what they were doing themselves. But if there was any disruption or conflict arising or anything that challenged or threatened the welfare of the general domestic makeup of the tribe, especially where the women and children were concerned, you needed someone, specifically a woman, who was in charge of ensuring that basically everyone behaved themselves and it kept running very smoothly. So a head woman, shall we say, was appointed, and in the Romani culture she was called the Puri Dai. Now that translated means ancient mother, the mother of the tribe, and it didn't always necessarily have to be an older woman as such, but usually I think it was just because she obviously would have had more wisdom, more insight, and more probably more firmness to be able to deal with some of the problems that might have occurred in the tribe. There's another important aspect as well that with the Puri Dai, if the tribe wanted to move somewhere or do something, if the chief, who's called a sherengro, if the chief of the tribe said, okay, now we've got to move because it's good for all of us, he would always consult the Puri Dai to ensure that she was in agreement with that. And if she said no, blah, 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 because of whatever reason, then probably they would delay it. So she was very much a wise kind of woman, a wise woman, if you like, in the tribe, because she had most of the answers, and usually she was very tuned in. So she was a seer as well. So yeah, she had a very important role to play all the way through ancient times to now, really. And I think this is probably true in a lot of ancient tribes, except they might have had a different name for her, or they might have talked about her in a different way.
Okay. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, aren't there, that the Romany culture is mainly patriarchal.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I do get people writing to me about that, and sometimes accusing the Romani culture of being patriarchal. Of course, in some respects, because we live in a patriarchal society, shall we say, the earlier cultures can be affected by this, and they change largely because the men, when they were boys, were not initiated. And that's something else that the Puri Dai would have made sure happened to many boys and young men, that they were initiated into becoming a mature adult male. So, yeah, I think the patriarchal aspect is much more prevalent because of the way we are today, because women have lost a lot of their own powers, their own ability to have the insight. They're not always allowed or permitted to have the insight they would have had a long time ago. So, yeah, in earlier days, it was matriarchal, certainly, and not patriarchal.
Mm. And obviously, the way we've got such an imbalance these days, especially people like Andrew Tate, with all the messages that he's
Mm,
giving across to young men, and young
mm,
men like don't have that initiation process for them to
mm,
go through to understand that men and women, although they have differences, they are equal and opposites.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think if we look at the cultural aspects within the Romani ways of seeing things, you go right back to Cam, the sun spirit, and Sean, the moon spirit, and their attributes or their characteristics are what we all would have adhered to or followed. We would always wish to be like them, and that was more prevalent in earlier times. So you have Cam, who's a warrior figure. The sun spirit is a warrior figure, but he's also about love and kindness. So the word Cam actually means love. When we sign off letters, Romani people, we say Camaban. That means love from, and then put your name at the bottom. That was always quite usual. So when we think about that and we think of the aspects of and characteristics of Sean, the moon spirit, and she is very firm, she is very much someone who will lead you astray if you need a lesson to learn and you don't behave. So their characteristics would have been sought after by the ordinary common mortal, if you like, on earth in earlier times. And the attributes that they had, you always sought to have them in your life so that you did have the opposites, but you did also respond to what they could give you. So it's not as if Cam is completely all male, stereotype, patriarchal, whatever that we might see today, and Sean is the all female, stereotypical woman, whatever. It's not like that. They cross over with their attributes, and I think if we see it like that, then men can bring out their more feminine attributes so that they can be more caring, just like Cam. And women can bring out their firmness and their ability to see within everything, like Sean does. So, yeah, I think that is what we're missing, probably, well, undoubtedly, in our society today.
Yeah. It's sort of gone too much one way, and there's not so much balance in a lot of people these days, which is very unfortunate. But then that's the wonderful thing about what we're doing, is getting the message out there. You know, people want to know more about it. Obviously, come along to the workshops, look at the other podcasts that you do as well, your YouTube. There's so much to learn about it, and it does make life a lot more manageable
Yes,
when you put policies in.
yes, it does. I think we're owed this, really. I think we need to get back to it all as soon as we can, really, because of the state of the world and because of the way human nature has become. We can do no better than looking at what most earlier cultures taught us, no matter which culture it is. But with the Romani culture, it's particularly relates to Europe. So I think if we are European, particularly of the Western world, then we can see how our own ancestors would have been a long time ago. And they would have followed very, very similar practices. And so, yeah, we are owed that, and we need to do it pronto, as quickly as we can, and get back to normality. But there's a lot of help available. There's a lot of help available in the workshops and in everything we're doing today. So you just got to make sure you stay connected, I think, whoever's listening to this. So, yeah.
Yep, that's a really good idea, because I know for myself, as I've said in previous podcast, how much this has helped me in my own life. And it's just a shame that there's not enough people getting the message that if you learn about this stuff, life is far more manageable.
Yeah.
It is enjoyable. It doesn't get you down so much.
No, I think that's absolutely true. And if anything does get you down, you tend to pop up a bit quicker. I think rather than ruminate and go over and over things, you tend to find an answer for things. So yeah, it is very, very useful, to say the least. And I think we all need it, because being able to manage life is crucial at this time. Yeah.
Yeah. it's a very difficult time out there at the moment for
it
a lot.
certainly is. Yeah, yeah, I agree. And we all need something to keep us going. I do.
Yeah, same
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And everyone helps me as much as I help them because I teach this culture. It doesn't mean to say I'm exempt from needing help. And, I always am greatly inspired by everyone who tries their best to make life worth it, change and grow and do all those things that we need, which we're supposed to do when we're here, believe it or not. So,
That's
yeah,
something we can talk about more in probably the next podcast that we do is about change, Jal
yeah,
Parava,
yeah,
be an interesting to discuss, because that is a major thing on the workshops and on the courses that you run as well. So I think we'll have a chat about that one next
yes,
time. What
I
do you
think
think?
that would be a good idea. Yeah, sure.
Because that'll lead on nicely after sort of what we're talking about, how
Yeah,
we're bringing the qualities of the greater ancestors in.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, Jasper. Well, once again, we've done another podcast. So, everybody, obviously, if you've got any questions, please send them Jasper's way. And we will see you next month.
Yep, yep, good. Enjoyed it. Right, okay, bye then. Bye.